The Monkey Mind Podcast, your number one platform for athletes and mental health. Hosted by Danny Perez and Anthony Florentino.
This is episode 51 featuring Connor Collier. Connor is a former Division III hockey player at Stonehill College. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Daily Dose CBD Inc. Daily Dose CBD Inc. creates full-spectrum CBD products ranging from tinctures, balms, and dog treats. Research has shown that CBD has successful results in aiding in the following areas: anti-inflammation, anxiety, PTSD, help with breaking addiction, neuroprotection, epilepsy, arthritis, chronic pain, and sleeping disorders. Daily Dose makes an extremely safe and effective product that we know you will love, enjoy, and benefit from. Daily Dose has given Monkey Mind listeners 15% off all their orders. Head over to dailydosecbdinc.com and use promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off your purchases. That's promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off all your orders at dailydosecbdinc.com. Let's get into it, man. Connor, welcome on.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for for coming on and talking to us and being open to share your story. So, yeah, we start everything. If you want to just give yourself an intro and let everyone know who you are and the sport you played and your journey.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on, guys. You guys are doing great work and been listening to all the pods, and it's great what you guys are doing for us athletes and a great platform for all of us. But yeah, I'm Connor Collier. I'm originally from New Jersey, Madison, New Jersey, which is in Morris County, kind of up north there. Been a hockey player, or was a hockey player, retired now, played my whole life. If you're familiar with the area, I played for the Devils Youth Program, played with Danny for a couple of years there. And yeah, great time there. I played basically from mites to up to midgets, and went to St. Peter's Prep High School with Danny for a couple of years, and kind of matriculated from there, went to prep school, boarding school, did that whole scene, 2 years there, and did a year of juniors, and kind of done everything. I mean, I think my story isn't that unique as it pertains to the hockey realm. And I think we've all kind of done similar things, albeit a little differently, but yeah, just really fortunate to have had a great couple years playing hockey, played my whole life, played in college at Stonehill College, which is Division II in the NE10. And, again, like I said, it's just, it's hard to realize in the moment, I think, how fortunate you are to play a sport like hockey and kind of chase the dream. I know that's kind of the motto we all say, but in the moment, it's hard to recognize how fortunate you are. But looking back, I'm kind of 2 years removed from college and from playing, and nothing but positive things to say. And, the reason why I was so eager to come on here and chat is, listening to you guys podcast and, some of the stories that have been shared. You hear a lot of different things, ups and downs from a lot of guys and gals about their careers and sports related things. And, my path is a little unique in that, I've kind of recognized some of the struggles that are going on post hockey. And not even anything almost, it's certainly hockey related, but it's unique in that, the life I live now, which is kind of just the regular 9-to-5 job, that's sort of opened me up to some of the things that I'm battling currently. And I think a lot of that is because of the void that's been left in my life from not having hockey. So would love to make this a dialogue with you guys. And I've obviously heard your guys' stories from listening to the pod, and Danny, I've known you for a long time, but happy to be on here and just kind of share some of my unique experiences, both in and out of hockey.
Yeah. I mean, I think you bring up, when we talked via text, when you reached out, you mentioned about, the transition of being an athlete to, the real world.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a important and overlooked topic. And I don't know if it's one that we've really talked about too much on here. So I'm excited to have you on and give us that perspective. And you, like you said, you've noticed that it's kind of opened you up to some struggles now, just in that transitionary period, which everyone has to go through at some point. And everyone here has been told, like, oh, hockey ends. But when you're playing and when you're a little kid, like, you're like, yeah, hockey ends, whatever. I'll deal with that when I get there. Like, it's never meant for me, right?
Right.
And I was that kid. I've like, even like mid-pandemic, when I still like had hopes of playing, I was like, it'll end at some point, but not now,
Right.
Now
right.
It's like I'm going through the same things that you are. So, talk about how that experience has been for you, making that transition, and what you're struggling with, and also what you're learning about yourself and about who you are and what you want.
Yeah. it's I guess I'll backtrack a little bit and kind of just give a little more color as to what my vantage point was in my relationship with hockey. I obviously, like 99.9% of guys and girls that play the sport, adored hockey. It was my life. And that sounds cliche, but I think, we've all been there, right? Where you grow up, you're chasing the dream, and you get to that certain age where it's like, this is what I want to do, whether, and I actually never really had aspirations to play in the NHL. Obviously, if it was a reality, that would have been great. But for me, I think I was like 11 or 12 years old, and all I talked about was playing Division I hockey. That was my only goal, really. And so that's really all I wanted. And it's interesting. And I actually had written down something, a little notepad over here, that with hockey, for me, it was like my identity in the sport kind of just became my goal, and whether I achieved it or not. So getting to, midgets or prep school or juniors, all I really thought about my relationship with the sport was, am I going to get to Division I? And if I don't, then what have I done for the last 15 plus years of my life? And not to get dramatic and say, I thought I was a failure when that time came and I realized I wasn't going to go D1, but I think that was the start of me realizing, like, what is my relationship with this sport? You dedicate your whole life to it. Your parents dedicate their lives to it. And you start to realize, was it all for naught? And I never really had that thought, but I definitely was thinking, when it comes time to get to college and I realized I'm not a Division I player and I didn't achieve that dream, how do I handle that? And so it's really interesting, and I'll get into how I'm kind of dealing with it post-college. But when I got to college, I almost like couldn't wait to be done with hockey. And that seems crazy to say, but I like I said, I had that dream and I didn't get there. And obviously I enjoyed my 4 years and I loved all my teammates and I loved playing, but I think a part of me kind of wilted when I didn't get that goal that I had achieved. And so kind of after my sophomore year of college, I played 2 years, and I didn't play a ton my freshman year and played a little bit my sophomore year, but we didn't have a great team. And I just kind of found myself saying, I can't wait for this to be over. I can't wait for the real world to just get here. 20 years of hockey or 19 years of hockey, and I had kind of just had enough of it. So it's interesting, Danny, because you talk about, you're never ready for it to end. And I was sitting there kind of just like ready for it to end even before it was over. And so I look back now and I get frustrated with how I approached the sport, towards the latter half of my career, just because I had those feelings of, let's just get it over with. I didn't get where I wanted, so let's just be done with it. And now I'm sitting here, I work a regular job and I enjoy my job, but at the same time, you sit there and you're like, did I give up having the time of my life just to get to where I am now, right? You have 40 whatever years ahead of you to work, and it's like you don't have 40 years to play hockey. And so those are the things I'm kind of struggling to think through now. It's not like I can go back and change anything that I already did, but I definitely sit here and I wonder, and I definitely have realized some feelings of anxiety and stress, and just kind of wondering what if, right? Not even what if as like how could I have changed my career, but just what if I had approached it better. And I don't even know if better is the right word, but what if I have just given it the opportunity that it deserved, and I just really immersed myself in enjoying it for what it was? Because I really don't think I did that to the best of my abilities. So that's kind of what I'm struggling with now. And I don't know how you fix that. I don't know if it's just something you deal with when you're a couple of years removed from playing, but kind of searching for those things now, and love talking to guys who are done playing as well, and just kind of hearing about how they're coping with, not playing anymore. Because you hear a lot of guys they never wanted to give it up. And you hear some guys like me who couldn't wait to give it up. And then we all kind of arrive at this similar situation where it's like, well, shit, it's over. And we don't really know how to deal with that. So that's kind of where I'm at and what I'm struggling with.
Yeah. It's funny. I think about this quite a bit now, being on the side of I'm done. And I have the same thoughts as you, Connor, and the fact that I look back and while I have no regrets, I just wish I enjoyed the process more, and just stop being so like goal focused and goal oriented. Because I don't know if it was like this for you, but like that's a lot of stress. And when you're a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 16, 20-year-old, and like all you think about is like achieving the goal, you forget to fall in love with the journey and the process of it. And I think a lot of us easily get like that. And then your identity falls into that, realm too. And then when you don't achieve it, or if you do, and, if it, if you fail or just, have a minor setback, you feel like that's on you as a person. Like everything that you are as a human is completely just dismantled, or you're, the failure feeling that we all get. And I think, I don't know if I know anyone who has been such a maniac about work ethic and achieving a goal as you were, man. Like I remember we used to work out together all the time, and it was all we talked about, and like always doing the extra reps. And we would always say, remember dedication, but we spelled it D1 in it. I had to bring that up. That's all I thought about. Like,
hell yeah, man.
And we pushed each other, and I think it was great for us, but like, we were psychos about it in a sense. And I think it's like, that's all we thought about. And we forgot to just like enjoy playing the sport. And I think that can be a lot of stress on kids. I mean, it's hard. And when you talk about the whole, feeling like you put your identity into that, how do you feel, about that message? And you mentioned it before. So.
Yeah. I mean, and it's great that you bring that up, Danny, because I look back and those are such fond memories, but at the same time, I'm like, did we have an unhealthy relationship with the sport? And, I'll never tell anyone that they shouldn't obsess over a goal, or if you love the sport of hockey or whatever sport you're doing, I would never say that you shouldn't give it 110% or whatever you can. But the reason why I kind of second guess myself is I'm like, well, is that even healthy? You're 12 or 13 years old, and yeah, you're telling yourself it's a goal and you want to get there. But I think sometimes the way we went about it was, I don't know if there's any other word besides obsessive, right? Like we were just so caught up in that one dream. And I look back and I have a really complicated, I think, relationship with how I understand goal setting now. Hockey was my first goal that I ever set. That was like my first dream, quote unquote. And now I look back and I'm like, is that the right way to go about setting up goals for yourself, right? Like now I'm in a stage in my life where I'm trying to set new goals, and I'm constantly second guess, like how much of myself do I put into getting there? Because, take out the fact that I didn't even achieve that dream that I wanted. I don't even really look at the result as part of the process or as part of the end result. I look at it more like, how did I go about getting there? And the part that I really am having a hard time coming to terms with is figuring out, what part of you, if not all of it, should be put into attaining those things that you put forward in front of yourself. When we were kids, it was hockey. And I was very fortunate that my parents kind of just let me go as hard as I wanted. There was never a no. If I wanted to go to boarding school, go ahead. If I wanted to play juniors, go ahead. If I wanted to play another year of juniors, go ahead. And I think, that's great. And we can get into that about how my parents were so supportive, but at the same time, so that kind of tells me that all of the things that I was doing were kind of brought on by myself, the stresses, the anxieties, and kind of that almost toxic relationship and obsession with getting to where I wanted to be. I don't know if that's the right way to go about it. And I don't know if that's unique to hockey. I'd love to hear your guys' experiences. And if you think that's a hockey thing, or I know you guys have been talking to a lot of other athletes on here, but it seems like hockey players have that just insane drive to get to that end goal. And not that I haven't seen it in other athletes or in other people just in general, but I don't know. I think it seems to me like it's something to do with the sport of hockey, where they're just giving you every single level to reach. And I don't know if that's healthy, right? Like it's great that you can play in high school and prep school and juniors and do all these things, but is that almost too much? And I question that, like one day I'd love to have kids and have them play hockey. And I don't know what the game will be like then, but I hope that I hope the process they go through is not the same one that I went through. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's unique to hockey because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we're the only sport that commits kids at 13 years old.
Yeah.
So right away, your friends in your class are worried about like the birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese, and you're more worried about like, I think I'm 13 and I still haven't committed to like a Division I program. Like, what am I doing? I better giddy up,
Right.
But then also, I think but that's not to say that all athletes don't have the same level of drive. But I think that there's one thing that, needs to be said is that this is why I think athletes are looked upon in corporate America, because when you achieve that high level of success, your brain ticks a little bit differently than the average person, I think.
Yeah.
You don't take no for an answer. You're willing to do absolutely everything. You're willing to make the sacrifices. And that's why typically like athletes end up being successful in the real world. So I think there is a correlation, but I think it's just important to teach the young kids in the next generation to just fall in love with the process of being a hockey player and the sport itself. And maybe don't look at so many of those Instagram videos you see of like coaches doing these drills. I mean, honestly, I think there needs to be more 3-on-3 and like just like open hockey stuff. Like everything's so structured. And I think when kids see that, when kids see other kids committing at like 13 years old, 14 years old, it can create a toxic community and a toxic mindset.
Yeah. And I think it's a great segue that you bring up, Danny, talking about, why athletes, and honestly, I think hockey players specifically, but definitely athletes are looked upon so positively in, corporate America, or really just any post-playing career. And it's, part of the reason why I wanted to come on is because I'm kind of the things I'm experiencing now with, working full time and no longer being an athlete. You obviously lose that identity, but at the same time, we've already talked about some of the issues I've had with, my path and my route and just, youth hockey in general. And I'm starting to see that in the working world where, like you said, like we'll never take no for an answer. And, you grow up and your drive to get somewhere to accomplish a goal is so strong. And the only thing you're telling yourself is I just have to work as hard as the next person. Right. And there are definitely always people working harder than you. And I think that's really unique to athletes in general, because you get to the working world and you kind of look around, and as opposed to when you're an athlete and 75% of the people, if not more, are working as hard, if not harder than you, you get to the working world and you're kind of like, where's everyone at? Like no one's working hard. And that's not to say that the work isn't hard, but you're so ingrained to just keep pushing yourself until you're almost uncomfortable that almost becomes a problem when working. And I'm starting to realize that now, in hockey, it's like, do that extra rep, or in any sport, do that extra rep, or, get an extra session in, get on the ice and do whatever you need to do, shoot pucks. The mindset is just not the same in the working world. And I think people value athletes because they're willing to go above and beyond, but there's definitely a threshold that needs to be understood, because so often growing up, when the athlete is willing to exceed that threshold and go further than anyone else, I mean, that's almost not even, it is welcome obviously in the working world, but it's unique, right? There are not a lot of people who are doing that. And so part of what I'm really struggling with now is, my whole life I've always told myself to do more, right? And do more because everyone else is doing it. And now I'm trying to tell myself to do less, because I'm finding myself just constantly stressed and like anxiety riddled. And I know that's not healthy, but I can't help it because of how ingrained I was in working hard from sports. And so that's a really hard thing that I'm dealing with, because you sit there and, you're thinking that hard work is great, right? Obviously no one's going to tell you to not work hard, but is working hard to the point of like exhaustion and like and mostly mental exhaustion, is that healthy? And it's interesting because when you're growing up, you'll push yourself to boundaries that you didn't even know you had, but you're doing it for something you love. I work in insurance and I like my job, but I don't love insurance like I love hockey. So it's no, not even close, not even close. So it's something that you really have to come to terms with. And I know that there, for all your guys listeners, and, you've had people on the pod now that are still playing, and I don't want to like steer anyone away from, enjoying their career and getting into the working world and putting forth all the things that they used in hockey or any other sport into the working world. Obviously you should. I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at right now, but at the same time, I think the earlier you can learn that there's definitely a threshold when it comes to hard work and then like just like mental anguish, right? Like you can take a step back and relax every once in a while. That's a good thing for you. And I haven't learned how to do that properly. I never did it in sports, and I don't really do it now in working. And I'm lucky to have good friends who are there to kind of tell me like, dude, just take a break, right? Like step back and take a break. And that it's unique to me because I'd never had that in hockey. No one was ever telling you to just take it easy. If anything, they're just telling you to do one more, to do it harder. So that's something that's just unique that I'm really trying to figure out now. And I honestly haven't quite figured out how to do it. It's definitely a work in progress.
Have you, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Flo?
No, I was just going to point out the identity, but I'll bring it up later because it'll spark something else. Just keep going.
I was wondering about if you've been able to, talk to a professional about some of the stuff that you've been experiencing, a therapist or anyone, of that nature to kind of help you through the process. And if you can kind of just talk specifically, if you feel comfortable about, just kind of like how your anxiety manifests for you and just, I don't know if you can, I'm going through the same thing right now, like with the transition process. So if you can kind of just talk about like the thoughts that you have as far as like, trying to figure things out and trying to understand that the one thing that you were so passionate about and loved is gone, and trying to like find new things to spark that same level of interest. I mean, just specifically tell your story on that side of things.
Yeah. Happy to talk about it. So actually for most of my playing career, I mean, from maybe early days of high school through college, I went to therapy. So it started out as like, I'm from a family of 5 boys, so it's kind of a hectic household. And, as a kid, I was acting out, and I'm the oldest. So, when things go bad, I'm kind of the first one that mom takes to figure it out. Right. There's 4 brothers behind me. And so, when things weren't going well for me, it was, let's investigate therapy. And so basically from high school from St. Peter's, my first high school, up through boarding school, I went to basically what I just called anger management. And I think that was basically just kind of like a cover for just saying I went to therapy. I thought maybe anger management made it more masculine, or it's like, oh, I get angry sometimes, so I go and talk about it. And maybe that's what it was, or maybe that's what it wasn't. I don't know. But I do know that while I was playing, therapy was definitely a huge part for me. I've already talked about it, I think, kind of ad nauseum already, but I definitely tended to get maybe hyper stressed when it came to hockey, right? Like just constantly pushing myself. And I don't think there was a harder critic out there on me than myself, like to an absolute fault. And that became a problem as I got older, where just everything I was doing wasn't enough. And especially when I realized that, that D1 dream wasn't the reality, I just constantly was berating myself and hard on myself. So therapy was a huge, I hate to use the word crutch, but that's really what it was, right? I really needed it during that time to kind of figure out that it's okay to just have fun playing if that's all it is, right? Like I was very fortunate enough to get to college, like I said, and that's a lot further than a lot of people get. And I think therapy was, and a large part of therapy was just kind of reminding myself that you can be happy with where you're at, even though it's not necessarily where I want it to be per se. It's okay to just be content with where you get to, right? And so therapy was huge throughout high school and college for that. And especially, I haven't really gotten into, I only played 1 year juniors, and I haven't gotten into that yet, but we can talk about it. Flo, did you play juniors?
No.
You did not. Lucky you. Danny, I know you did, but
The
ringers, right? But therapy was huge during my year of juniors, as I didn't really enjoy it that much. It was a tough year for me. But honestly, since I stopped playing, I actually stopped going to therapy. And that's not because I think I don't need it anymore, or because I feel like I'm above it. I'm very much not. But obviously, I moved to Boston 2 years ago. And maybe I'm making excuses as to why I haven't done it yet, but I just have tried to settle in first and see where I'm at personally before I think pick up therapy again. And it's something that it's not a matter of if I will, but when I will, because I've seen the benefits as how much it helps. Right. And I know there's a stigma around, like going to therapy, and we're trying to break that. That's a part of mental health and a lot of the great work that you guys are doing, and other podcasts and other people are talking about and being outspoken about. And so, yeah, I've definitely seen the benefits of therapy as it pertains to my playing career. And quite honestly, I have yet to see the benefits as it pertains to my working career, but I think it's something that I'm going to have to pick up again. And not so much as because I feel like I'm suffering internally to the point that I need it, but I think it's to the point where I want to go back, right? As I said, there are some things that I'm struggling with, in my post-playing career, and it's great to lean on friends and family and come on and talk to guys like you and just chat about it and be open. But there's professional help provides you with, I think, that support and relief that doing what I just said doesn't quite do. And so, yeah, I think it's like I said, it's something that played a huge role in my playing career. And I think will probably play a role for the majority of my life. And I say that proudly, quite honestly, because I think the sooner and earlier that people realize the benefits of going, then the better off they are. Because I know that I'm 26 years old and I've probably gone to therapy for 15 plus years, maybe less than 15, but around 15 of my 26 years, and have seen phenomenal benefits from going. And so nothing but a cheerleader for what the benefits of that are. And I don't know if you guys have seen professional help or if you guys are speaking to anyone, but it's definitely been a huge part of who I am and of my career, both playing and soon to be non-playing.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on because you said two things and that really pointed out like how strongly you feel about therapy, which is so nice to hear because, people that have come on have talked about how, oh yeah, therapy helped me. It was good for me. But you're talking about, you said crutch and how you didn't want to mention it, but like how important it was and how beneficial it was for you. And 2 points that you made were, it's not a matter of if you go back, it's when. I think that's the most important thing, and kind of, elaborates on how strongly you do feel about it, because some people are like, oh yeah, I tried it. Yeah, it helped, blah, 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 but I don't need it anymore. Right. And to have you saying, you're looking forward to it and you want to go back because it was so helpful during, hockey's stressful times and all those times that were, not saying you don't have struggles now, but obviously as a hockey player, you're thinking about, your body fat percentage, how much weight you're putting up, how fast you are, like how hard your shot is. And obviously those factors aren't in the mix anymore, but to hear you say that you want to go back because it helped you during the most stressful times is, I think, so beneficial for people to hear, because, not saying other people have bashed it, but they overlook it once they don't need it anymore. And at points you can be like, oh yeah, my life's great. I got a great job. I got a great apartment. I got great friends, girlfriend, blah, 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 whatever it may be. But they kind of tend to shy away from still continuing that process of, getting things off their chest or doing exercise with a therapist. And then all of a sudden one little bump in the road comes along and they're back to square one because they got away from those tendencies that they were doing. And now they're panicking because they don't have the therapist because they stopped going, and now they got to find a new one and all these things. So I think it's great that you are so passionate about it. And I think that kind of comes with the hockey player, mindset. We find something like, you find a trainer that you see serious results with, you keep going to him or her. Same thing with a therapist. If you feel good, for me, if something's working for me, I'm going to keep going with it. If I let's say I ate a Big Mac before every game and I had a hat trick, you bet your ass I'm going for a Big Mac every game. Like It's things like that with the hockey mindset, or probably any athlete. But for us hockey players, we're able to relate to that. So I'm just really glad that you said that, because I think people hearing, like Danny said about how you guys were, the hardest working ones and whatnot, I think people hearing that is going to be beneficial for them, especially people that have done it and kind of shied away from it.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I think part of why I haven't gone yet is, and I'm for so long one of the reasons why I went, the main reason why I went was because of, the struggles I brought on myself because of hockey. And so I saw therapy as sort of maybe it was like sports psychologist. It wasn't really technically, right? But that's kind of how I saw it. If someone can help me kind of clear my mind and improve my game, then that's just a benefit. And so and I think this is honestly probably an issue, but looking back on it, seeing therapy as sort of just through the medium of how can this better my performance and less how can this better just me as a person. And so part of the reason why I think I have yet to go is because I'm now trying to think about therapy in the way that it's meant to be thought about, right? And it's that, yes, of course, a sports psychologist or people who see therapists because they want to improve upon their performance, that's fantastic and phenomenal. And that's why they're there, right? But now that I'm no longer a player and there's no longer that medium for me to look at it through, I'm trying to look at it in, the heart of the matter, which is, therapy is fantastic for individuals who know that, they seek support and professional help. And, I'm certainly one of those people, and I'm not afraid to say it. And so I think now I'm just trying to formulate the conversations that I want to have, and not to say that you can't go into therapy with a blank slate and not know what to say, because that's what they're there for, right? They'll help you discuss those things. But I think for me, it's just a matter of making sure that when I do go back, that it's, clearing my mind of some of the past things that I was going through with hockey, and really trying to enter that space as, not someone who's no longer a hockey player or no longer an athlete, that will always be a part of me, but someone who's going in there as, my sole benefit of coming here is to just be a better person. It's not to go out and be a better hockey player. It's not to get, a clearer mind so that I can get through the school day so I can go practice better, or to be a better teammate. It's, hey, this is Connor Collier sitting in the chair, and I was a hockey player, and that's always going to be a part of me. But now it's just about being a better person, brother, son, boyfriend, whatever it is. It's just about being that better person. And I hope that when I do go back, I get that clarity that I just talked about. And, sometimes that's not always the case, but I think that will be once I realize that it's okay to just go back and improve upon yourself as a person and not just as player or former player.
Yeah. What were some of the tools that you learned in therapy that have helped you, that you cope, help you cope, and maybe some things that you've used in the past, some things that you currently use, maybe it's implemented into your daily routine. What has helped you cope in the past or currently helps you cope?
Yeah. So I'd say two things come to mind immediately, and there's probably more, but two that I can think of right away. And the first being, I think therapy was the first place that I realized that it's okay to have interests that don't align with what people perceive you as. So, when I went to high school or when I went to boarding school or whatever, it was always like Connor hockey player, Connor equals hockey player. That's sort of how I identified, not completely, but that's, I think, definitely how I was perceived. And I didn't really do anything to negate that perception. If someone were to be like, oh, that kid over there, he's a hockey player. It wasn't like, no, I'm just Connor. But, I was proud to be a hockey player. So I never really shied away from that persona. But I think the first thing I learned was it's okay to have interests that are different than how people perceive you. So quite honestly, I loved school. That sounds, I was kind of a nerd growing up, and I loved high school. I loved college, and I really enjoyed writing. So one of the first things I learned in therapy was like, dude, you can go and enjoy those things. And whether people know about it or not, it doesn't matter. And maybe at first I was a little shy about some of those interests, but now I'm very open about it. I love to read and write. And I think therapy was the first place that I realized, you can enjoy those things in front of people, not in front of people, however you want, because quite honestly, when I was playing, I shied away from a lot of those things. I was just so hockey centric, everything, workout, eat, everything, hockey. And I barely gave myself time to find new things, let alone enjoy them if I found them. So I'd say the first thing is, I don't even know if it's a coping mechanism, but more so just part of life. Like you can find things you enjoy, or you should go out of your way to find things you can enjoy, and definitely take some time to enjoy them. Because I didn't do that enough while I was playing, and I'm still kind of learning how to do that, but it's something that I've improved upon a lot since I was kind of in the bulk of my career. So that's definitely number one, and that's been probably the biggest one for me. And then number two is I think just how you approach, not so much every day, but I think at the time it was how I would approach my hockey career or whatever I was going through. When you're so focused on a goal or so focused on playing or whatever it is, I think you tend to, or at least I did, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I tend to look at something through such a small lens, right? Like this is the only thing that matters. And I kind of just blurred out everything surrounding it, sometimes family, sometimes friends, Nothing drastically, but enough where my perception, I think, was skewed. And I don't think that benefited me as a friend or a teammate in the moment. And I think going to therapy, the one thing they'll tell you, and the one thing you kind of, not even that they tell you, you kind of realize it on your own after going to some sessions and talking through it, that, you know, having a big picture and perspective on anything you're doing is one of the greatest things you can do for yourself. So I definitely didn't do it while I was playing, but I'm definitely trying to do it now. And that's, you know, if you have a bad day at work or you have a bad day playing, in the grand scheme of life, it means almost nothing, right? It's insignificant. It's just a day. And that's not like you should excuse it, right? You should think about it and react to how that day went, if it was negative or even if it was positive. But I think it's just taking one day at a time and then realizing that each of those days are kind of just compounding on, you know, the larger part of what you're living. And so that's kind of the second thing that I realized. And it's just not to hyper focus on one thing at a time, right? It's a good thing to be focused and hone in on what you want to get done or do. But at the same time, it's like, just take a step back and realize that there's a bigger picture there. And that's definitely a work in progress for me. I'm not great at that, but something that therapy has helped me see and trying to do better.
Yeah. And that's coming from, you know, you, who I respected your work ethic and I respected you as a person and player. And I think, you know, getting to know Flo, like I know Flo's off season this past summer, he was working out like an animal and like you're training like crazy for the season. And, you know, you guys know my work ethic. And I think it's important when it comes from people like us who have this track record of just working so hard towards something, that kids listen to it and say, okay, like these are kids who have been down the block and are respected for their work ethic. And they're telling me that it's okay to have a life outside of hockey. It's okay to not apply so much pressure. And I think it's important because we talk about this all the time. It's about balance. We're not saying don't work hard. We're not saying don't put your all into it. We're saying, yeah, do those things, but don't let it drive you crazy.
Right.
You know, it's okay to have other interests outside of hockey. It's okay to like things that the quote unquote typical hockey player may not like. I mean, I think that stuff's important. How are you going about searching for, you know, different interests outside of hockey? I mean, right now I'm in that same spot. I'm just kind of saying yes to everything. You know, I get invited to do something, I'm just like, yeah, I'm going. Like, yeah, you know, I'm throwing myself into it. Like, all right, let's see what this is about. You know, like,
why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's part of it. Kind of just being a yes man, right? I think a lot of it too, and it's unique because when you play, you know, basically all of my friends were teammates of mine in hockey or maybe still playing, and so a lot of it is, you know, when I got to college, I made some friends that weren't on the hockey team. That's not to say I didn't love all my teammates, like still close with a lot of them to this day and really enjoy getting to know them. But you get to college and that was sort of the first time I realized, like, wow, there are people outside of the hockey team. Like, that's weird. And so just meeting new people and hanging out with people that maybe had different backgrounds and interests than that's sort of introduced me to new things. And so that's really the main thing. I think it's really just kind of latching on to different people. And Danny, kind of just like you said, it's just saying, yeah, sure. And that's sort of the approach I've taken with kind of the social aspect, right? Like before it was just, you just had your hockey group and you went through life with those guys. But now it's, you know, you make a new friend, you meet someone in the city or you meet someone through work and yeah, sure, let's hang out. Let's go get a drink or do whatever we got to do and get to know each other. And then from there, you kind of, you know, hobbies or interests kind of spur, and that's how I'm investigating. So I guess in short, I'm sort of just relying on people to introduce me to things. And I'm a people person. I love chatting. I like to talk and just get to know people. And so if that's a way to introduce myself to new things, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. And college is a very stressful environment, but it's also the perfect one because there's so many clubs. I don't know how your school was with advertising, that sort of stuff. But, you know, people should search for that stuff more. And there's a club for everything in college. And if there's something that, you know, somewhat sparks your interest, go to a meeting, see what it's about. And you meet new people. And I encourage players to get outside of the just hanging with your hockey teammates. I think it's important. It's important to develop friendships outside of it and be actually a true member of the community. And
Right.
I think that stuff, I think college is a great place, and it's underexplored for sure. And I wish more players did that. I try to do it more so as I went on, and met a lot of great people and have developed a lot of new interests now that honestly are helping make this transition from out of hockey into normal life a little bit easier, just by finding new physical interests that I enjoy doing and putting my time and effort into. And if I didn't, do that digging in college, I wouldn't have ever known about it really. So definitely encourage, like you said, to have kids. Like you said, be a yes man, give everything a shot at least once, and see if you like it and go in with a good attitude. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Flo, you got anything else for him?
No, I appreciate you coming on. I think you have a great mindset towards benefiting yourself as a person further, just like you would as if you were still a hockey player, finding your identity to be a better person. What you said about being a yes man, kind of hits me because I've restricted myself over the last 16 months probably from a lot of things. And, I'm just starting to get back into that mindset of, trying new things. And I'm grateful that you came on and told your story because, I'm sure it will help a lot of people that listen, but it also helped me. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. I mean, as I said earlier, what you guys are doing is great. Not only just admirable, but just great for everyone that can listen. I'm sure it helps you guys, but it certainly has helped me. It's nice when you can just kind of come on and connect with other hockey players, and not even hockey players, but just athletes, and chat about some things that, not only I've been going through, but you kind of see the commonalities around the community. And that's very helpful, I think, for a lot of people. And it definitely has been for me. So thanks to you guys for doing this and setting this up, because it's a great platform.
Yeah, it's our pleasure, man. And I think you gave a lot of great advice and great points. And if you just quickly leave everybody with one thing of, maybe there's someone who's going through the same thing that you're going through right now, or has been, or will be going through, just kind of a piece of advice, something that you would have wanted to know, or something that you learned.
Yeah, I would just say that if you have a goal, or you're committed to something and you say you love it, right? Like we always talked about, we loved hockey. And there were days where people would kind of look at me and be like, are you even enjoying what you're doing? Right? Like I'd practice and coaches would be like, are you even having fun? And I would try and say to them, of course I am. Like, I love this. And they'd be like, you look miserable. And I think I was just so attracted to getting to that goal, like I always talked about, that I never really realized you can have fun, right? Even if you're having a good day or a bad day, like it's still good to have fun, right? Obviously. And I know that sounds cliche. So I guess the piece of advice that I'd say is, don't ever stop setting goals. I think it's the most important thing a person can do, whether it's a daily goal, a monthly goal, or, down the road. But make sure that you enjoy that journey, right? A lot of people talk about the journey, and I think what they say is, enjoy the other things you're doing, and you should. But if you're going to set that goal that you want and get really zeroed in on it, then just enjoy that journey, because, we all realize it's over before you want it to be. And it stinks when you're looking back, sitting in insurance, and you're wishing you could be playing hockey. So just enjoy it and have fun, and definitely don't be afraid to seek help while you're on that journey, because it only makes the journey better, and it only makes the end result better for everyone involved, most importantly you. So
yeah, I meant to say this earlier too. I mean, I know your parents, they're incredible people, but huge shout out to them, and parents like that who are just super supportive of having their kids seek that help, and knowing that it's okay to get help from professionals. I think that's so awesome and so cool to hear. And the fact that it benefited you is even a plus. So that's awesome. Shout out to the Collier family.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And it was a pleasure chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Flo. This is awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.